and welcome to today's Cap Talk. Our guest today is Waldean Nelson, who works at the Gothenburg Opera Dance Company.
Thank you for having me.
The topic of today will be identity, workplace relations, and emotions at the workplace. So the first thing I will do is ask Waldean to tell us a bit more about himself.
Yeah, as Tomas said, I've been working at Göteborg Dance Company now for the past 5 years. Before moving here to Gothenburg, I've been working freelancing as a contemporary dancer in the United States and Canada primarily. During that time, I managed to work with lots of different choreographers and had lots of different experiences. And while I was thankful for my experiences there, I was looking for something a bit more secure financially. And so I looked towards Europe, and fortunately was hired here at Gothenburg Opera. A bit more about me before that, before I started working professionally as a dancer, I had aspirations of being an architect actually. I have a bachelor's degree in the growth and structure of cities from Haverford College. And during my academic studies, was trying to pursue those architectural interests as well as dance through a mixture of classes on my home campus and also during summer intensives, usually in New York City, but in other cities as well. I think what I've discovered over my career thus far is that sort of kind of background has given me a bit of a unique perspective onto dance, and I think that it's been something that's helpful. It's given me an edge in a way in the field.
Now that we know a bit more about your background, I'm curious about your identity. The person that you perceived that you were while you were studying at college, and the person that you became when you started your professional life within the performing arts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there was definitely a shift from academic, intellectual, Waldean in a way to the artist that I am now. I mean, in terms of title, I felt that for the first few years I had a hard time just calling myself just a dancer because of the background I had, where I felt that I was really wanting to quickly clarify to people that I'm a dancer now, but I've also done this and I've also done that, and just to, I guess, show them all sides of me equally. And then, as the years sort of kind of went on, and the distance between me and those 4 years in that academic space, well, not even just those 4 years, but also my whole life before, was always in these really academically rigorous spaces. I took more pride in calling myself a dancer and an artist, because I had felt like I had earned my dues in a sense. I'd gone through different jobs and the highs and lows of that, and I felt a bit more legitimized within the dance field, and because I'd worked with certain people, I guess. And I think, you talk about a transition and an evolution. I mean, I'm ever evolving. We are all ever evolving. But I feel like now I'm seeing things in myself now that, rather than just negating my background, I'm weaving it in a bit more successfully into my identity, I feel. So, when we're in, if I'm in a creation now at work and people want to need help in designing something on a set piece, people will mention, oh, Waldean's he has a background in architecture, and I want to be whoa, that was over a decade ago. But but at the same time, I do. But there are things. There's the essence of how I think about space. I think that how I was trained to think about space before I started dancing, that are relevant. And so I bring that to the table, and I also think about the past 10 years and all the different people I've worked with and the different styles I've worked in, and I bring that to the table. And so my identity now is nothing that it's not one word. It's probably a lot of hyphenated things, but it's hopefully, I think, a bit more welcoming of the different parts of me, and not feeling like I need to pretend to be like one thing or pretend to be like another, because I don't really quite fit anywhere in that way.
It is very interesting this you say about your identity not being 100% clear right now, and that you can see that you are more than just one thing. So I was wondering if there was some time during your professional life in which you had it very clear that you identified yourself with your job title, dancer, and that when you interacted with people outside of your job, that was the thing that you would that would be one of your defining traits. This is me.
Yeah, I think before to talk about professional identity, I should say that in dance and in school and training to be a dancer, it's very stressed that being an artist should be your everything and your everything, because it's so hard to make it as a dancer. So like in during a class, during rehearsals, whatever it may be, there's this thing of like, do you want to be here? This has to be number one priority, because it's so competitive. There's so many people out there that will, that are better than you, and other people will like more than you, and it's all these things are just to they train you to have a singular identity. Because I had the path that I did, I felt that when I started working professionally, that I wasn't like as committed as everyone else. Like I was very committed, and that's what I came to learn over time. But I always felt a bit guilty of not being so 100%, all or nothing in a way. And so you talk about a shift, and I think I, over the first couple of years, was just trying to, like I said, like pay my dues and get that singular identity. And sometimes it felt really great and wonderful, because dance for me before was like always my hobby, and then I had the opportunity to make my hobby my career. And so the thing that, while I always had like my main activity of like school, whatever those school activities were, dance was what I escaped to. And then I now had created this reality where I didn't have to escape from it. But then what happens to that other reality? Does it just go away? Do I just stop? And that was me. That was my negotiation. I was like, no, but I still like science and math, and I still like thinking about things that way. And maybe it doesn't always work so neatly in my workspace, but like, how do I keep that alive or acknowledge that part of me while being successful at work? And yeah, the name of the game is when you have a new job, is you want to be successful at work. So there were periods in time when work wasn't going so well, thinking about my first job in particular, where I felt like I needed to shift, I needed to change just to like make it to the next step. And so then it's just, fight or flight, and you do what you have to do. And then once I got to a bit more of a secure place, one within that job, but also just within my career, then I started to be like, oh wait, what about those things that I've been like pushing to the side because they didn't work or they didn't fit, about my personality, or habits from other spaces, other cultures. And it's, it's always a negotiation, like take what do you need to get ahead, to progress.
And regarding that adaptation, I wonder what were the changes that you needed to make in yourself, in your behavior, in order to adapt to this new environment that you were starting to work in. How was the welcoming of your colleagues and your bosses?
Yeah, I think I learned to lean on my colleagues, like in the company. I think like I had, with my academic studies, been one person who liked to solve things on my own, and I think that's a bit of just my personality. And it comes from a place of like confidence and being like, I'm capable of figuring things out if I get enough time and space. But I think that can be a very lonely way to go through a dance career. And in a dance company, part of the magic of being a company is not just you perfecting singularly what you can do with your body or your artistry, but it's about the relationships you have with your colleagues and that magic that you create on stage. I think people that from that first job, like, um, took care of me, and they became like family in that way. And those are the ones actually that when I would make certain choices in the workspace later would be like, hey, I saw you did this, this, and this. Are you aware that maybe that might come off this way or that way? And I'd be like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. And they'd be like, okay, we'd have these conversations, and they were able to like actually engage with me. And it wasn't just my first job, actually. It was like my first two big jobs, I would say. And in particular, like maybe also the my second boss, and her just having like casual chats with me when we're on tour, and making jokes out of it on just like my isms, and I became more aware. And I think you talk about identity, but you have to be aware of your identity, right? So once I became aware of what how I was, and then you look at what my intentions were, and then there's life, and it's like, okay, well, I want to get to that step. Then you can sort of kind of navigate, okay, let me alter this or change this or not, or just clarify, explain what my intentions are to get to that next step, to be, well liked, thoughtful, perceived as thoughtful and committed in the space. I think that, dance is a thing, how I've learned it, is not all about your resume. It's all about, it's mostly just about like have people having like a good feeling when they meet you, or seeing you work with someone else and just liking how you work in a space. And so it's like all these like interpersonal skills that I got better at, to be honest. I think, but that's that's how you get ahead or keep working, I'll say, or that's a better way to say it. That's how you keep working as a dancer, because then people go like, oh, I like Tomasi's great, like, he's such a good time in the space, he's easy to work with, on top of being talented, because you can be talented and then no one wants to work with you, and then it's like, so, yeah, my colleagues, my friends, I'm saying colleagues, but my friends, those are the ones that were able to, support me in that change and making those changes and holding me accountable and inspiring me also. And I would see how they would navigate situations, and I would, in your head you're like, okay, all right, and go forth. Yeah.
You have talked a bit about how in the past your colleagues have supported you, and I would like to know more about what does it look your workplace right now.
Yeah, in the company we are 38 dancers working full time. So what that means is in a program we usually always have two pieces, and so on average there's about 15 to 16 dancers in each ballet. So that, with our rehearsal director, the choreographer, and maybe the choreographic team, there can be upwards of like 20 people in the room on any given day.
That's quite a lot of people, and you work very close to each other.
Yeah.
How it is to manage those emotions, those people.
Yeah, it can be a lot. I think most of the work, honestly, putting a show together is less about like the steps, but it's about just managing people and their emotions and mental states and how they vary. In the room we have the choreographer, creator, who's bringing forth the concept and sometimes the steps, things like that, and whoever might be on the choreographic team. That could be a dramaturg, a choreographic assistant that they bring with them, whatever that may be. And then we also have, we have our own rehearsal director, who serves as a resource for both the choreographer and the dancers in the room. So they're the one that, in one sense, knows us the best, because they work with us throughout different productions, and they also know like the resources of the house the best. So whatever the choreographer might need, it's the rehearsal director that helps them with that, or serves as a liaison between them and the house. I think when it comes to like the management of like the general flow of rehearsal, you always give first priority to the choreographer and how they want to run the space. but the rehearsal director is the one that has a lot of power to. They sort of kind of like are your project managers. They make sure that the product is there at the end of the day, no matter where the choreographer or the dancers are. And so I think that they actually do like the most amount of like emotional labor in terms of sensing where the group is and things like that. On an individual level, I think that there's of course managing your own emotions and making sure that you stay focused on the work. And making sure that your mind and body are in the best place to be present and available to her. But also being sensitive to where your colleagues are. And, you know, we have good days and bad days. And without labeling it, but working with it just to get to the finish line. So that can be really hard and complicated with so many people in the room. You know, more times than not, I'll try to say less rather than saying more. And if, because you can run into a situation of like too many cooks in the kitchen, because we're all very capable, we're all very smart, we're all observant. But for something to move forward of that size, you need a clear leader, usually. And then we all just need to work on following. But yeah, sometimes, yeah, like I think when it works best, it rotates. You know, there's some dancers that step forward to like review certain steps or ask for clarification, and some of us just wait in the background for the dancer to come. And at its best, then you're not always in the one position or role. But yeah, it's quite a juggling. It's quite a bit of juggling is required to do it successfully. Juggling.
Yeah, so you said that you have bad days and good days, as everybody, and I was wondering, how do you turn off those bad feelings that are negative emotions that you might be experiencing in one of those bad days, and turn it into whatever the emotions you are required to portray in your performance?
I think mindfulness. I try not to look at emotions as like good and bad all the time, and also like performance is the same way. I don't try to look at it as good and bad. I just think that you have emotion, and emotions come from something. So I'm more like analyze like, why do you feel that way? Where is it coming from? Did someone make you feel that way? Did you make yourself feel that way? And then if it's something that you're not necessarily a fan of, like, what can you change about the steps leading up to that point? It was a choreographer I worked with, I think before I moved here. She said, you know, anger is an expression of need, a need not being met. And that really stuck with me. So if I'm in a space working and I feel like I'm being given anger, I think about what is the need that's not being met. This person is something is missing, and how can I meet that need? And usually, if I meet that need, the anger will go away. Also, to check myself to be like, what are my needs that are not being met in this moment that I perceive that to be anger? Because maybe it's not anger. You know, like I said, we're 38 dancers, but we come from 20 different countries. So that's 20 different cultural like backgrounds and histories that are really deep. And so ways of expressing joy even is different, you know. And so to make sure not to always color it from my particular from my lens, my perspective.
Thank you very much, Waldean, for joining us today. It has been definitely great to listen to you and to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you for having me.
This has been today's Cup Talk. Thank you for listening.